Cardinal Nation, what's happening? Listen, I want to thank you. That's right. I want to thank you, right, for tuning in for another amazing episode of What the Cardinal Call podcast. Why? Because we are the classroom podcast that is designed to interview industry experts and leaders and gain their insight, aka golden nuggets, so we can help take your leadership and your learning, that's right, to the next level immediately. But before we jump into anything today, this is what I need you to do. Go out wherever you see us, on YouTube, on any of our social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment out there about us. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, how we're doing, how we're changing your life, and how we've helped take your leadership and your learning to the next level. Typically, right around now, I'll start off with a great quote, but today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to gather the theme of what all of our faculty and staff always tell many of our, what I call WBPs, our working business professionals, our adult learners, our learners connected to the OLL program. That's right. We tell them to go be great. So on behalf of all of the faculty and staff connected to the OLL, the Organizational Leadership and Learning Program, I'm going to tell you, go be great. That's right. So listen, I want you to join me all month long as we celebrate our Black History Month edition. And I've even got the opportunity to round up a great co-host and the one and the only Dr. Randy Whetstone. He's an amazing individual. He's a great co-host, and he's also the leader of our diversity, inclusion, community engagement, and equity degree track. Listen, if you think that you want to be a DEI expert, this is the degree program that you have to get enrolled in. This is the one that's going to be the game changer, the life changer, the career projector. You got it. So listen, tune in all month or our Black History Month edition of the Cardinal Call podcast with Dr. Randy Whetstone, because we've been lined up some amazing guests who are going to do some great things. So listen, you know how I always tell you, that's right. It's that time of the day. It's that time. It's that time. It's that time. I need you to go get your pens, your pencils, your notepads, your memo boards, your iPads, whatever it is that you're going to take notes with on today's podcast, because the guest today is going to drop some boom golden nuggets, and you want to be able to write them down, to recall them, so that you can go make changes in your career, in your life, in your industry immediately. Listen, this is what I need you to do. Go get that as we head into the classroom to learn from what today's amazing guest.
Cardinal Nation, we are back, we are back, we are back, and we are doing it better than ever before. Listen, Cardinal Nation, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in for today's Cardinal Call podcast. We had to do a little digging on this one, but I think, though, the world, Cardinal Nation, is going to be real impressed with what we uncovered today. Dr. Whetstone, I see you out here. You got the nice hat on. You got the Kobe Bryant going on in the background. We celebrating dice. We bringing in Black History Month. How's it going, Dr. Whetstone?
I'm good, Dr. Owens. You know, I had to bring in, the Black Mamba, Kobe. We got a special athletics representative today. So it was just, perfect timing to, represent Kobe, and looking forward to our conversation today with our esteemed guest.
No doubt. I called him Mr. Cowherd, but he told me it's just D, or call him Derek. So listen, Cardinal Nation, if you see Mr. Cowherd running around campus today, everybody else, you got to refer to him as Mr. Cowherd. You don't got that relationship yet. He's not on your podcast. You will understand that Mr. Cowherd, Derek, he has been, I'll let him tell his little bit of a story, but let me give him a brief introduction. If you don't know, he is the current Associate Athletic Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at the one and the only, the University of Louisville. If you don't know, the ACC only has several colleges that have this actual associate athletic director position on the books, and Mr. Cowherd, D, has landed one at the illustrious, the amazing, the wonderful University of Louisville. So, Mr. Cowherd, I'm not going to steal any more of your thunder. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm wonderful, and I love the introduction. I'm just so glad so many people canceled on you so I could jump in this time.
You were at the top of the list. We just had to work out a time frame to get you on. We knew we had to get you. We knew your position. It is new. I think it's fairly new at the institution, but it's not new work for you. So if you want to tell us a little bit about, give us a little bit of rundown about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I appreciate it. I am blessed to be in this role. As you said, it's definitely new. We created it at some point around August or September after the athletics department created a number of positions, but this one was at the forefront, especially after the murders of Mr. Floyd and Miss Taylor. It was imperative for so many companies and universities to pay closer attention to diversity, equity, inclusion matters. So I'm just really standing on the shoulders of all those that have fought for years and years and decades and centuries to have this be a position that matters, one that's in the ear of the athletics director, one that helps shape all of the programming and decision making that we make in athletics.
Nice.
So a little bit about me. I am from the country about 80 miles away. It's called Greensburg, Kentucky, near Campbellsville University, which is a sister college or a partner with the University of Louisville. Grew up there my entire youth. Really loved the people down there. Very, very progressive country town, if that can be possible. But people really love each other, and you were judged by the content of your character and how much hard work you produced. And that's how my family really grew up, and that's how I've tried to live my life. So I went on to play some ball in high school, all three sports that were available for me. Then I played some football at Louisville for a couple of years under some really great coaches, Howard Snellenberger and then Ron Cooper. Then hurt my knee and really got into just the love of student life and student activities at the University of Louisville. And I'll say right now that saved my life. There were some people here that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself as a country boy, and they really guided me in to the start of the journey of really focusing on what higher education can do for not just males but Black males. So I'll just say that fast forward, I was able to be a counselor for academic services for football under Marvin Mitchell, who was one of those pathway makers. After starting with admissions and Jenny Sawyer, who really saw something in me and made me go back to graduate school. And then with that, earned an MBA, started the PhD program, and really just kind of my career took off. So I went to LSU for 7 years, Ole Miss for 6, Ohio State for 3, and I'm really glad to be back.
Nice. So as you can see, he is well traveled. So he has probably stories for days. Got the little SEC country under your belt. So that's always nice to have. But there's nothing like Big Ten country. Even though we're in the ACC, there's nothing like Big Ten country.
Now, I love all the experiences and great people I've met, but there's nothing like Louisville. There's nothing like the University of Louisville. And there's nothing. It is the University of Kentucky, right? So University of Louisville is the University of Kentucky. How about that?
Listen, I am with you 100%. We are the University of Louisville, no doubt, no questions asked. But, here on the podcast, Derek, we talk a little bit of leadership, talk a little bit of learning. Definitely want to get into diversity, equity, inclusion, your area of expertise in your field. But let me kick it off with this question, because this is a question I ask every one of our guests that are on the podcast. How is it that you define leadership?
Well, leadership to me is service. It's listening. It's communication. It's being a servant leader and being selfless. So if you're not that, I don't think you're an effective leader. And if you aren't, you're not for long, right? So really it's about service to me. And I have Muhammad Ali, if you could see it, all over my office. So that to me, he has a quote, service is the rent that you pay to live here on earth. And it's
right.
So true. So it's about service to me.
Got you. And when it comes to service, is there any particular type of service that you like better than others, or that you prefer? I know some people are into community service, but outside of that, but like Habitat for Humanity, or, we ever going to find you around town building some houses?
I'd like to, I mean, nobody needs to live in the house I build, but I'll be there to help clean things out. But yeah, we work on everything. There's a great program that Alyssa Murphy, our assistant AD for student athlete development, created or helped run. It's been created for a while, but it's called Cards Care. and they touch everything, whether it be reading to students or cleaning up with and then it could also be habitat. So whatever the students are doing, we try to get involved. Just like recently, we wanted to go down to Western Kentucky to help with the cleanup after the horrendous tornadoes. We were ready to go, had the buses ready, but then the weather was too bad and COVID was a concern as well. So we'll be around. We did for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, we hosted about, 70 track and field students.
Mm-hmm.
We cleaned up much of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Street over near Louisville Hall, and we're very proud of that. And that's not going to be the only time we do it. So we're going to focus in under the leadership of the new interim AD. We want to do those 3 or 4 or 5 times a year with different teams. So we're excited about it.
No doubt. That's some phenomenal stuff. You said that was Cards Care?
Correct.
Got you. Okay, so let me ask you this, because you mentioned you guys like Muhammad Ali, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So let me ask this question: like, who do you think best exemplifies your definition of leadership?
I love the question. I've had to answer it several times, and it's hundreds of people. I'll start with my family, though. My father, grandfather, grandmother, mother, everybody that's in my family has been influential to me. But outside of that, obviously Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, you name it. Those folks that have gone on before us that have shown what true leadership is, I've tried to study those folks. And, I'm not a huge fan of Kobe back there, but, he was a great player. But Michael Jordan is another huge person that I felt like was exemplary of all that leadership is. Once he figured it out, he put it together, right? So nobody just figures it out immediately.
Gotcha. And so let me ask this kind of off the cuff, how long do you think, or because you said nobody figures it out immediately, what do you think is the time frame to figure it out? Not saying, I know it's different probably for everybody, but how long do you think it normally takes someone to say, for the light bulb to go off?
We're always trying to figure it out. I don't know if you ever arrive. It's a constant working towards something. So right. I just try to do that, consistently learn, because if you start resting on your laurels, like an old Denny Crum, who was another great leader, he had this Kroger commercial about don't ever rest on your laurels, right? So if he had just stopped after 1980, we wouldn't have had 1986, and we wouldn't have had 2013. We wouldn't have the Center. So just continuing on all the time and continuing to learn. It's really important to continue to learn.
No doubt. And let me another off the cuff question. Clearly you have what some would say you've kind of arrived, right? You're sitting at probably one of the highest levels in athletics outside of just being the AD. You're sitting at an associate AD level over DEI. When did you realize, like, this is what I want to do? This is kind of what I want to make my name, or this is kind of where, like, when did that happen for you? Was it like when that knee injury happened, or was it like a few years afterwards, or, more recently?
First of all, I've not arrived.
Okay.
I'm going to keep on arriving. I know that. But, I laugh when you ask me the question, because I told someone when I was a graduate assistant under Jenny Sawyer in admissions, who's still here, by the way, who's still telling me what to do, and I love it. I said, if I could just be an assistant AD someday and make $50,000, I'll be set. And that's all I'll need the rest of my life. I'm coming from a small town. It's awesome, right? Everybody has different aspirations. But little did I know that I would be in a senior associate director level at a SEC school and then a Big Ten school. Like that, in academic support, and an executive director of a huge conglomerate of an academic support program with a $4 and $5 million budget. I never would have thought I could have done that from a 2 stoplight town. But it just, you get into that groove and you just keep going, right? And you let it take you where it takes you. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm not arrived, but I do know that I'm going to keep working at it. And anytime I get a chance to progress, anytime I get an opportunity to take a next step, I'm going to take it. But I have a few mentees out there. It's hard for me to believe I'm old now, but I'm getting old. And I tell people all the time, once you get to the top, you realize you're not even close to the top. You just had hit another plateau. So it's on you to create that next ladder or pull somebody up behind you for sure.
No doubt. I love it. Dr. Weston, you want to chime in on Derek's leadership expertise connected to service?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to revisit that Kobe comment here a little later. But I really what I found to be really most interesting was you using the word service to describe leadership, and I think for all of our guests, a part of this special Black History edition of the podcast, each person has mentioned service or giving back to the community, probably in every single episode. And so I find that to be so profound because we've interviewed and we've had different Black leaders. Today it's athletics. Last week it was politics. Week prior was, Pan-African studies and just looking at Black history. And so for Black leaders to say consistently across different fields, service and giving is so key when it comes to leadership. It speaks to the type of leaders that we are in the Black community and what's needed for us and for our people. And I love that because when you think about the Black community, we understand our plight, we understand our struggles, we understand all of what we've had to overcome. But when it comes to those who have emerged as leaders, they don't lose sight of that. And they understand that a big part of their leadership is still giving back and representing the community in a great way. So I love that you mentioned that. And we all continue to serve and move forward for sure.
Well, thank you for that. I question all the time, why are we expected to give back? We don't have generational wealth. We don't have a lot of time. We're pulled at all different directions. But it's just something I think within all of us that we must do, right? And I wish more would say, not just say service matters, but to really back it up with actual service and actual funding. Because there are some people that are extremely wealthy that could do a lot more for the communities that are poverty stricken and have food insecurity and healthcare concerns and education systems are really lacking comparative to others. So, it's on us. I feel like it's an altruism. I feel like we're all connected in some way, not just Black brothers and sisters, but everybody. Right. So if we can't figure that out, we won't be on this earth very long, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the quotes I love that I still, hold close to me to this day is from Dr. King, who said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right that whatever Black and brown individuals face in the nation, everyone else is affected indirectly, right? And so the more that we have that understanding, hopefully more people will understand the importance of diversity work and like you said, funding and contributing to fix a lot of the systemic problems in our country.
Awesome. Thank you for all the work you're doing, both of you.
So let me ask this last question before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of our interview today. And it's something that it does tie into a lot into that service component we're talking about, and that giving component is, in your line of work, especially working with DEI, it's a huge thing. And some would say it's a current buzzword. I don't think it's a buzzword. I think it's just a reality of bringing inclusive excellence back into the workplace. But from your standpoint, what is a great way to gauge when learning has taken place in your organization, when the light bulb goes off, when you know that what you said is about to be implemented because it matters to people? Like, what is a great way to gauge if that's happening in the organization? And I guess we can indirectly or directly talk about in athletics per se, but just in your frame of thought.
I think you used a great term, inclusive excellence. You can be excellent in a few things, but if you're not excellent in all things, you're not excellent. So I I think of coaches saying, you know, if you don't have a good breakfast in the morning, if you haven't made your bed, if you haven't done a little studying before you go to practice, you're probably not going to have a good practice because you haven't really started off the day right. So for me, and this is just me, I can't speak for everyone, but everywhere I go, I've tried to create a list of what is a success.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to measure it or it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
So even if we are at the lowest of the low in a conference in some aspect, well, you have to measure yourself against yourself until you're measuring yourself against others.
Mm-hmm.
So we would create, as a leadership team, lots of metrics that would help us see us moving the needle towards success. And
Right.
in academics, it was GPA.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't it tells a story. It doesn't give you exact science of what's going on, but we looked at graduation rate. We looked at African-American graduation rates and how that matched up with others. We looked at this metric called academic progress rate, APR.
Yep.
So in DEI, it's different. So we're looking at engagement. That's the number one thing. But how in the world do you measure engagement? You could probably create a whole field of thought and a PhD program under what is engagement, right?
Right.
But you want to see who's engaged in the learning. You want to look at numbers and see who's being hired. You want to see who's representative in search committees and what your team looks like. So you look at all those things plus 100, and that's kind of how I've figured out whether we've moved the needle towards success. But we're still putting those together. I have a great team of people that are willing to join a committee with me in the SOAR committee, which is called Strategically Organized Against Racism. So like your bird, SOAR, you like that? I love it. So they had created that, and I wouldn't leave the show without saying that Christia Worthy from Yum Brands created a lot of these metrics that we're doing and programs that she left us with that were extremely important, especially during the civil unrest in 2019, 2020, where all of us were glued to our televisions for what was going on health-wise as well as racially and socially. And we owe a lot to her for all that she did for us.
No doubt, no doubt. Dr. Whetstone, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of jump into our Dyson Black History Month questions.
Absolutely. Well, with all of our guests so far, we've talked about Black History Month, and we understand that it really just isn't 28 days or 29 days of celebration. It really should be cherished as a lifestyle. So when we think about the athletic field, how would you describe the importance of Black History Month and the athletic field and the correlation between the two?
Well, it doesn't just tell part of the story. It tells a big, huge part of filling in the whole story. Mm-hmm. So I love that we have Black History Month, but it's not every single day that we're just saying, well, how can we hit them today, right? It's going to be throughout all 365 days. And really proud of this marketing team. They came with some wonderful ideas. All I had to do was just sign off on it and maybe just throw a word in here and there. But they've been doing some wonderful things under Dr. Neely Bendapudi, the former president. And I know we're going to do some great things under Dr. Gonzalez. She's been awesome as well. And she has a wonderful team under her that is extremely diverse and doing some wonderful things. So if you can pull them on the podcast, they're great. So hidden treasure. But back to your question, I feel that we're going to focus on a lot of areas. We are going to hit, women's appreciation, AAPI, pride. We're going to hit all those really hard. We're going to hit them all throughout the year. And I want to tell a story if it's okay. And I hope Kevin Aka isn't bothered by me sharing this, but he is African. I think he's from the Ivory Coast, and he's in our marketing department. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing this beautiful, beautiful shirt with African colors on it, African design. And he comes to me, and he had studied this for so long because he's truly African. He's actually the true African American, right? So he's here, he's researching. He comes up and draws freehand what we're going to do which is CBL, and it's Celebrating Black Lives, CBL. And that is in like a Louisville Old English font. And then he comes up with the color pattern. He designed a uniform. And then in that same meeting, he was just kind of showing me how these colors and the ascension and the star and the burst and all that meant in Black history or African history, and how that would be incorporated in the social media as well as some of the graphics. And I just felt like my whole worldview was changing in front of me. And he looked at me and said, I just want to apologize. My people weren't affected by the slave trade, but on behalf of us, we want to apologize for all of those that went on before us and had such a rough go for the last 400 years, but we're here to help. And that meant so much to me, because in all my 40 plus years, who's ever thought that an African would apologize to us for not being able to, and he's 20 years younger than me, but he apologized on behalf of his people, which it was one of the most powerful moments I've been in my entire life.
Wow. Yeah, that's certainly profound. It's a perfect segue into our next question, and that is, under your leadership and tenure, how do you want to reshape the narrative of Black men in the athletics industry?
Well, I'm just glad that y'all have kept me past 23 minutes. So it means I might be doing decent, right? But I've only been here about 9 weeks, right? So I'm just trying to show appreciation for the role, really approach it with all the respect in the world, knowing that people are watching and knowing that I want to leave it much better than I found it. I want to have a large budget ready to always promote all of these ideals. And I want us to be really proud of the work that we've done to level the playing field for coaches, aspiring student athletes, aspiring coaches, that of color and of not, of different genders. And, we have a lot of work to do in this whole industry of sport. I know we've seen it play out professionally, but college is not much different. And I don't know what the answer is, but we've got to get busy changing hearts of folks that make decisions.
Right.
And that's what I want my legacy to be, is that wherever I've been, we've won, but we've won with diversity and inclusion.
Nice.
Absolutely. And speaking of diversity and inclusion, we have been informing our listeners all this month about a special track that we have in our program that is called Diversity, Inclusion, Community Engagement, and Equity. So using the acronym DICE. And every time I describe this, I do explain it to say that, when it comes to dice work, it really is like a dice roll. It's like a crapshoot. You never know how the dice may fall, and you may have to address anything from religion, sexual orientation, physical abilities or disabilities, and the list goes on. So in your work, how do you implement dice in the workplace?
Well, it's a little dicey, right? Sorry, I couldn't stop. I can be corny too. Well, that's one example right there. Sometimes we have to be, funny, and humor gets it across sometimes, but we're going to always hit the data. We're going to do a lot of D's here. We're going to do a deep dive into data and see what it's telling us, because data does not lie. It really doesn't. So if we start with that, then we come with solutions. So solutions are really important to say, well, this is what the data is telling me. Perhaps we can try this and do something a little different when it comes to this. And whatever the approach is, I have a biology degree too. I love science when I grew up. It was just easy for me to pick up because it doesn't really change much, over time. Biology is going to be biology. Mitosis, meiosis is all going to be the same. And I did pretty good on those segments in the class. But, we want to be sure that we show that there is a scientific method to getting to an answer that we want to get. So if we have a hypothesis and we do a little study on that, our conclusion is this, and let's keep showing that the conclusion is this so we can continue to duplicate that across the board in different areas or facets of the department. And if you know anything about athletics, it's really a start. It's really a good microcosm of the greater university. While it's just a part of the university, it is a big part. And a lot of times what we do is definitely duplicated on campus once they've seen it's really been successful with us, especially in academic support.
Absolutely. Next question for you. In this question, kind of it's asking you to kind of foresee the future, look into the future in a sense, but where would you like to see the sports field in the next 25 years?
Is that professional or college?
You can approach it however you like.
I'd like to see that sports are still around, because I think it's woven into our DNA as a country, but it's definitely not the most important thing. Because people fight to eat and fight to, thwart the effects of global warming. Doesn't matter what kind of sport you have if it's too hot to play outside. So for me, I just want us to be around 25 years from now and enjoying it. I don't want there to be like the Jetsons where we're motorized scooters and playing soccer that way. I want to see the true athleticism. I also want to see that there's a level playing field of haves and have-nots playing together based on ability and not because they have the funding to have the greatest trainers and, access to things. So I want access to be open up to a whole lot more students that wouldn't have been able to do so. I'd like for it to be more globalized and more countries to be able to really participate and get to know what it's like to be a part of something that's much bigger than themselves, because it changed my life. I would never have thought that I could do anything other than something in the sporting field. And I'm just so blessed to be able to still work in it.
Absolutely. Well, before we transition into some of the fun stuff, I can't let you off the hook. Derek. I'm coming back to it. What was it about Kobe? What was it about the mama that you didn't like?
He had all the mannerisms of Michael Jordan, and he really emulated what he was trying to do, and he got way too close to the 6 championships. He did the 5, right? I didn't need him to get to 6. So had he stayed with Shaq, he would have had 7 or 8. Let's just be honest.
Right.
So, I like the Mamba. He's competitor, fierce, love how he was a girl dad, and just all the great things he was about to do. So, my hat's off to you for being a huge fan, and I'm so sorry that he's no longer here.
Yeah, absolutely. I always wonder about LeBron or Kobe, and, all those comparisons to MJ. And so it sounds like, you were definitely a Jordan lover, and which is great. And so kind of, riding with MJ, it's kind of hard to get off of that GOAT train. So
right.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Dr. Owens, back to you, brother.
Listen, we could go on and on talking about the MJ Kobe debate, but
there's no debate.
There really isn't. They make it a debate, right? The sports analysts make it a debate. There really is no debate. Michael Jordan. But I think I look at it when I look at Michael Jordan. This how and I am not a basketball aficionado, but I will say this. I think I've heard Warren Buffett say it a lot of times, and I've also heard other executives say sometimes you just have to be lucky when you're born, because he was born at the right time. Right when the NBA was trying to go global, they wanted to be this massive. They wanted to compete with the NFL, and Michael Jordan was the guy to do it, and that's why he will always be the GOAT. I'm sorry, Randy. And if all else fails, we can just go buy shoe sales. If all else fails, we'll just go buy shoes.
And what's really interesting? Speaking of that, today is MJ's birthday.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So. Nice tribute to the GOAT. MJ is my GOAT, by the way. I do believe that. But
that's
Kobe,
awesome.
He was my favorite player.
But before we let you out of here, Derek, we have what we call rapid fire. Rapid fire is 5 questions that I have lined up that I just want to get your first response, first things that comes to your head. So it's just something we have a little fun with all our guests. And are you ready for rapid fire?
I am ready.
Here we go. If you could pick one word that would describe your life so far, what would it be and why?
Blessed. and I am not supposed to be here. I am a country boy from a really small town. I've seen the world. I've been to Europe just recently with a student group. Man, I've lived a wonderful life, and I'm blessed. Not lucky, but blessed.
Gotcha. I love it. That's a great answer. I think this probably is the number one answer of all our guests, though. Here we go. Next question. What are 3 non-negotiable characteristics that anyone on your team or tribe has to have?
No hate, no negativity, and no laziness. Gotta go hard. No sleep. You can sleep when you're dead.
I like it. Next question. What is your favorite dessert?
It's pretty easy, but it's 2. I'm going to go ahead and say my mom's pecan pie and my grandmother's and my great aunt's peach cobbler.
Ooh, yeah. Pecan pie. I consider myself a pecan pie aficionado. I have had several pecan pies. Not all of them were good, by the way. But, it's the worst to bite into a nasty pecan pie, just FYI. If you've never done it, it's the worst. It's the worst thing in the world.
You're right.
All right. Rapid fire. Here we go. If you could do your career all over again, what industry would you have worked in?
Well, it's a close second with music, but it'd still be sport. It's no question. It's afforded me so many opportunities. It's definitely sport.
No doubt. So this is the last rapid fire question. It's somewhat deep. Some people, they hit us with a tearjerker moment. I don't know if you're going to hit us with one or not, but here we go. If you could sit with your 13-year-old self, what is the best advice that you would tell him?
Oh, man, nobody's crying over this. I would sit down with that young buck and say, keep going, buddy, and bet on Tom Brady in the Super Bowl 7 times, and you'll be rich.
Shout out to TB12. Here we go.
Now, he is the greatest. I have to say that.
No doubt. No doubt. I think Tom Brady is no doubt the GOAT of GOATs. What he has done, it will never be repeated. Definitely not in my lifetime. I don't see it happening. They can say I'm a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan. Joe Burrow is I love him. I just don't see him getting 7 championships. I don't even see him playing for 20 years, especially with a bad wheel.
Now, if he gets in line this year, and that's what you have to go back to the drawing board to get, he's smart enough. He's got the moxie. He's got that team. They love him. Anything's possible, but he's gonna get at least 4. He is strong. I really like his whole style.
As a Bengals fan, if he just gets us there 4 times, I will be thrilled. Win or lose.
I don't think the Bills would say that same thing. So you got to win one.
You're right. But I think our owner understands that it's hard to get. It's taken us 30 years from one to the next. So I think if you get us to 4, win or lose, I think he'll have a nice payday. He'll have it probably be the biggest contract in Bengals history. I can say that, I believe.
Right. Not even Icky Woods.
Icky got us to what? 2? I think Icky was on 2.
I love
so he was on 86, 89.
Yeah, Boomer and Esiason. I love those teams back in the day. That's all I could watch as a kid coming up. But I love the Bengals way back in the day.
Yeah, I've been a Bengals fan since 1986. So do the math. So I've seen when we were the worst team. I've seen us be an okay team. I thought under Marvin Lewis we made great strides, and I think this was just the way to build on that. In my opinion, it was the way to build on it. So
think of my dad. He's a huge Cleveland Browns fan, so you know how tough it's been for him.
Yeah, they've never been to a Super Bowl. That's all I'm going to say. The Cleveland Clowns have never been to a Super Bowl. Never. We've been to 3.
But he says next year the Browns, they're going the whole way. Every year he says.
The Yankees say the same thing, right? So last fun question. Here it is right here. This is not a rapid fire, just a fun question. If your life was the title of a book made up a reel, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I always said I was going to write a book, and it would be like entitled "What the Beep is Lunch?" And there's a lot of reasons why. And I could already see the cover. It would be a plate with a calculator and a pen and a cell phone. because who really has time for lunch? And you should take it. Like, we all need to worry about wellness, but we have a small window to make an impact, and I don't want to take any breaks. And that's kind of the premise of the book. And hopefully nobody's going to steal that. But I wouldn't say the curse word, but I would just say, if you're at lunch, you can be doing something. You can be planning. You can be sitting, plotting, strategizing, organizing, right? Like Killer Mike. So all those things you could be doing.
Or you could be on the podcast.
That's true. That's true. We're on the podcast.
So, Derek, before we let you out of here, I always give our guests the ability to give their final thought. The final thought is just, what is the wise counsel? We got you on top of a mountain with a megaphone, and the world is listening at your beckoning call. What would you be shouting from the mountaintops that you wanted everyone to hear?
Well, that's a tricky one. Now, I do believe in a higher power. I believe God is directing our lives and has put us here, and we have choice, but that we are covered by his blood and we're safe. And through him, we can have eternal life. And that's number one. But I would also say hard work really does pay off, and love one another. And doesn't have to be that hard, right? We can just take care of each other. I didn't say it the way my friend Kool-Aid used to say it, but if I can curse, it ain't that hard, right? Just love each other. Do right by one another. That's all.
Right.
That's all I'd say.
I love it. Dr. Weston, you have any parting words for Derek, the man Cowherd?
I just want to thank you for your time, your willingness. This is by far one of my favorite episodes because, we're all big sports fanatics. So I think we should do a part 2 of this and, maybe make it a sports debate or something. So we definitely got to keep the conversations going.
I really appreciate you all inviting me. I've had a really good time, and I love the work that you're doing. If there's anything I can do from my side of the house, just let me know. I'd love to partner with your groups, and any way we can amplify this, we're here to do it. So thank you for all you're doing.
All right, Cardinal Nation, you've heard it. You've seen it. This is it. That's the one, the only. He's the man, Derek Cowherd. If you see him on campus, don't call him D or Derek. You don't have that relationship yet. Call him the man, Mr. Cowherd. Got it? Understood. We don't want no misunderstandings. We don't want no problems. We want everyone to be on a good. So again, thank you, Mr. Cowherd. Thank you, D. Thank you, Derek, for being on here. Thank you, Randy, for running off and giving us the ideas of how to get these amazing guests. These podcasts have been phenomenal. Every guest has been great. So again, I want to thank everybody who's participated in this. Derek, listen, we're going to support you in any way we possibly can. The DICE program has got your back 100%. So not only can you partner with us, if we can partner with you in any way, shape, or form, don't hesitate to reach out. Let us know. Send us an email. But like I said, Cardinal Nation, when you see Mr. Cowherd on campus, give him a shout out and let him know you're supporting all his work and athletics. Other than that, Cardinal Nation, this is what I want you to do. Take care and stay safe.
Thanks again.